Hello everyone, thank you for visiting startavideogametruckbusiness.com. I am today here with my wife Tirza, and she's going to ask me a couple of questions that many people want to know about the business, and specifically about the training. I mean, what is it that you're paying your money for? So Tirza, if you go ahead and start with the questions, I'll be more happy to answer them for you and let everyone know what the answer is.
Okay, so thank you for letting me do this today. So before you start the business, what might it be like for someone thinking about getting into the business?
Well, that's a great question. No matter what business you go into in the beginning, when you're starting, when you're looking about the type of options that you have, it might be a little scary. A lot of times you might not know what you're doing or where you're going to go, but you have this idea of business, and let's face it, let's say it's the video gaming truck business, and yes, I want to do it, but I'm not really sure what to do. And if you tell anyone about the idea, a lot of people might even be a little doubtful, especially if you are in the circle of people who aren't really from a business background. So if you want to become a shoemaker, you want to learn from a shoemaker how to make shoes, so you go to a shoemaker, not a rocket scientist. So here, if you're thinking about getting into this business industry, you want to learn from someone who is in the industry, and regardless of what you might be told by others, in the end the decision is yours, and by coming to someone who knows what they're talking about, it's going to make it a lot easier for you. So try to take those doubts that you may have and put them aside and take a step forward.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. Now, what about business paperwork, because there's people out there that may not know anything about this, so can you give us some enlightenment on that?
Absolutely. When you're starting a business, let's say if this is your first business or maybe your fifth business, whatever the case may be, you have to take certain steps to make sure that you set up a business the right legal way. If this is your first business, I will be more happy to walk you from A to Z, getting all the paperwork that you need in order for you to legally operate your business. But yes, there is paperwork involved, and if you know what paperwork is needed, it's going to make your life a whole lot easier when you get into the business.
Okay, very good. Now, moving on, what about operational paperwork? Is there any, for the operation, the ins and outs of the trailer?
Oh, absolutely. There is paperwork that you need to have, be it certain type of insurance paperwork or a certain type of system of how you communicate with your clientele. There is paperwork that you need to have handy that will make your life so much easier when you start the operation of the business. And we will provide that paperwork for you when you are in your training or as you're wrapping up your training with us.
Okay, good, good. Now, what about scheduling systems? How do you keep track of scheduling and customers and clients? How is there a tracking system for that?
There is actually a couple of systems out there that you can use. The systems that you will be provided with is broken down to the simplest possible level that it can be broken down to, because I know when I see something, I want to pretend like I'm a 4-year-old, because as a 4-year-old, I just want things to be simple and efficient. And I don't really want to get too complicated. And I don't want, for example, personally, for some online system to be booking business for me without me knowing how certain structures of the days are scheduled. So, yeah, there are scheduling systems. You will be provided with a very simple to the point system, and we'll explain a little bit more about how that works in your training.
Okay, great, great. And what about hands-on training? I know a lot of times you can look at videos and not really get it, but I think most people learn by hands-on.
Yes, that is also a very good question. So one of the days, or maybe even 2 of the days that you are going to spend with moi, you will have your hands-on training actually going to parties with me and servicing, helping out, learning, asking questions. So instead of just jumping into the whole business, you will experience how to operate the business to have a much better view. Now, maybe it's possible that some sort of a gaming truck company that has pulled up to an event near you, that's where you came and you saw how some of the things happen, some of the operations. And so from one point of view might seem a bit simple, and it's really not that complicated, but there's a lot more to it that goes into it that you need to have hands-on training for, which is part of the training as well, and you will get that experience.
Great, great. Okay. And what about the trailer's ins and outs? I mean, like the functionality, the operating systems.
Oh yes, so lots of trailers for the most part, they're similar but they're different, and by training with me on this trailer we have a lot of very standardized equipment, and by knowing how to run it will make your life so much easier, especially when something goes wrong, but we'll get to that later.
Okay. Now, what about maintenance?
Yes, maintenance, super important. There are certain things that you have to take care of, like sanitation. Make sure that things are nice and clean after each party. We'll definitely go over that. But there are other types of things that you must absolutely be aware about when you get into this business. I mean, like some very crucial points that are just a complete requirement that you need to know, because if you don't know how to do certain maintenance of certain aspects and something, let's say, goes wrong, you don't have the knowledge, you will start calling everyone who you think owns a game truck business trying to ask for advice, especially if something happens during a party. Well, by knowing what you do to prevent certain circumstances, you'll be ready for that.
So you need to have a backup plan to back up the backup plan.
There are a couple of plans, that you might want to consider and learn.
All right. Now, what about getting it ready, the day of the party? Are there certain, is there a protocol or procedures that you follow to make the process a lot smoother?
Oh, yes. So especially on the days, like when, let's say, I have a party that starts at 9 or 10 a.m. and I don't get, let's say, I'm not home till maybe past midnight. That is a full day of parties, ladies and gentlemen. So on the day like that, and believe it or not, they're not, it's not something that just happens once in a while. It happens like pretty much weekly. Mm-hmm. So on those days, you have to be prepared. You have to know sort of how to plan for that day. I mean, I'm not going to get into all the details because that's why you're coming to me for the training, so that you know how to prepare for the day. But for example, I mean, you might need to have an extra shirt because if you're doing something you get dirty, hey, do you have a spare? But that's just one of the many things that you need to know. So preparing for the day, it's almost like preparing for a certain type of competition. Yeah. You have to do a certain set of rituals so that it makes your day so much easier when you're out there the entire day working.
Fantastic. Okay. And I know this is kind of just a general question. I'm sure that, there's many possibilities, but are you going to give in the training, what could possibly go wrong?
Oh, you betcha. When I started, I had a couple of very scary moments that happened to which I had no idea how to react to. So we actually have a whole section about how to deal with certain things that may go wrong, be it a technical issue, or be it maybe there is a child in the trailer that's not responding well to certain lights and strobes, and that child might need to leave the trailer before he or she has maybe like a seizure or something. So although that's not something that happens all the time, to know what can go wrong and be ready for it, boy oh boy, it's like there's a saying, you practice and you learn very hard in your schooling so that when the actual battle comes, you're ready for it.
There we go. And I know this is a very general question which can have multiple answers, but why is the training $1,500?
The training is $1,500 because it's a 3-day training course, so it's $500 a day. But it's $500 a day that we are focused completely on you. Besides everything that you learn, you're going to get also paperwork. So we figured that, a $1,500 investment is a really good, reasonable investment for someone who's not really sure whether they want to go into the business or not. But at the same time, if you are completely sure you want to go into the business, then this is something this is so affordable for to learn a craft that will make you money, and allow you to do what you want to do. So, at first we thought like over $5,000. But then we figured, well, maybe not everyone can, not everyone wants to invest that amount of money without knowing whether that's the business they want to get into. So we made it affordable for most of the people.
Okay, that sounds good.